We're headquartered out of Salt Lake City. I'll go to the next slide, and there we go. That's a picture of our building just south of Salt Lake City. We have 8 offices around the world. We have a few sales satellite offices around the U.S. as well. We've been around since 1988, so we've been doing this for a long time, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We focus in IP. We translate patents and all the translation that goes along with that, prosecution, office actions, etc. And you can see the kind of the volume of case loads that we do. You know, we started over 26 years ago, and our founder, we would translate the back of a cereal box. We would do any work we could. We translated anything and everything. And you know, the founder of our company, Michael Snedden, he developed this process of how to kind of use a centralized process. We're going to get into, I'll show you some slides here in just a second that'll diagram that a little bit better for you. But in essence, he figured out a better way to do translations. And it caught the eye of a very large company. We were at an event similar to this. We were in the U.S., and a gentleman that was the head IP of Procter & Gamble was there. And he liked what he heard, liked what he saw. So he came and sat down with the founder of our company and asked about how we could work together. And that was in 1989. No, I beg your pardon, that was 1999. And so that's 10 years after we started our company with folding chairs and folding tables up above a store, right? And then now we have this big, large building. We have office space all over the world. And it's all on this process that we developed. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are now starting to use it. And I'll show you a diagram on that. But ever since Procter & Gamble knocked on our door and said, help us do our translations because we like the way you're doing it, that caused us to just start focusing really on the IP space. So ever since then, since 1999, that's been our forte, our focus. We do 80% of our business is just translating patents. And that was a longer explanation than you probably all wanted. Hey, you guys know that there are 3 really key elements or criteria to any company, right? It's the people you have that work for you. It's the process that you use, that you have these people use, and what you do that makes you special. And then it's also taking advantage of what available technology there is. So that we're no different. We focus, and I love what Gary said early on. He talked about the differences of people that understand the science. You know, you have subject matter experts. All of our people that we use that do our translations are all native in-country speakers. They're linguistics. You know, they understand the linguist side of it and the linguistic side of things. And they're also scientists. The vast majority of our translators have either a master's or a PhD in the science of the patent they're translating. And we've all touched on that here on the board so far on this panel, that it is important that they understand what it is they're translating, right? I'm a sales guy. I do sales. I have read a patent in English, and I have an English degree. And then I went on and did a graduate degree into business. But I have an English degree, and I have a very hard time reading any patent in English. I don't understand the electrodes. I don't understand how it all goes together. And I mean, I'm not the only one. So we'll get into that in just a second, the process. I will draw you it's called the centralized or the streamlined management process, and I'll show you a diagram in just a second of that. And then the technology. If you use technology to help you, you gain like economies of scale. You know, things get less expensive. You have repetitious words in patents. We're able to use those and focus on that, and we use technology to pull those out so we don't have to keep retranslating the same words. I know if you're a translator, this you'll be familiar with that process. It's called leverage. And so that you get the point on that. Let me talk a little bit about why it's so important to have these people, like have scientists translate for you. Does anyone, I'm sure there's about 4 or 5 chemists in the room. Can you tell me what you see here? What is the similarities? What do these 2 things have in common? You're right. They're both lime, right? There's one that's calcium, or the calcium oxide. That's a molecule, right? And this one right here is a lime. Believe it or not, this is given to us as an example that we found. It's a real-life example of someone that's very familiar with the language and came across the word lime in English and translated as a lime, and when it was actually supposed to be calcium oxide. and they didn't understand the science that was being explained in the patent. And you know, our people, our translators, and our operations people at our company, they think this stuff is the best. I mean, we have these posters all over our lunchroom. People love these examples. We have a whole bunch of examples like this. You know, I know we have one German in the room, but he works for me, or works with the same company I do. I would be unfair to call on him. But Peter, would you mind tell us what the word snail is in German?
Well, snail is Schnecke.
Schnecke. And that's right. And so you would think, oh, okay, I understand the word for snail. And there was a pesticide company, a German pesticide company, that was filing a patent in the U.S. And the translator, not ours, but a translator, translated. We actually ended up doing business for the company later after this era that had took place. Translated Schnecke as the word snail. But it also has it's a broader word. It doesn't have it's a broader translation. What else does it cover, Peter? It covers.
Go to the dictionary is about 20 different meanings in German.
Yeah.
So the major is snail and slug.
Snail and slug. Those are the two key main ones. So the pesticide company got a patent granted here, or not here in India. I forget where I'm standing. Right in the United States, but it only covered half of what the pesticide was supposed to cover, because someone didn't understand that Schnecke is, and I know I don't say it with the right accent. I don't have the nasal down, but it doesn't. It's supposed to be snail and slug, and so half of what they were used for went away, and so that was this stuff happens all the time if you don't have the right linguistic and contextual expertise. You need subject matter experts to do the translations for you. It's imperative. A couple key issues that while filing, you know, the Steinble University, Dr. I lost his name now. Wurzer, Dr. Wurzer has done a couple studies on how how translation works in the languages and the translations of patents. And you know, we found these studies to be very interesting. And again, my operations people, the operations side of our house, loves these surveys, loves what they learn. They get so much information. To me, I boil it all down, and it comes down to like the most difficult language for non-Asian countries to have translations done. I'm giving a hard time with the sentence, but it's Asian languages are the hardest things for non-Asian speakers to have translations done in. And the reason is because they're so foreign. Like, you know, I speak English, I also speak Spanish, but I can read German a little bit. I can read other languages, Portuguese a little bit, and I can see the similarities. But when it comes to Chinese, I don't know if it's traditional Chinese, if it's simplified Chinese, or Mandarin. I don't know. I can't tell. And so this is what the study showed. So they show that most people have difficulties making sure that they get the Asian languages done right. A couple other things. I briefly mentioned office actions. You know, if you have a quality translation done right, the office actions, the number of office actions, I'll slow down just a little bit so I can hear myself, the quantity of them will go down. The higher the quality of the translation, the less ambiguities there are, the less office actions there are, and that means savings to the company. Also, the risk of litigation. Obviously, if everything's taking longer to get all translated and get sorted out with office actions and so on, you delay the time to grant. And as I already mentioned about the snails with the German pesticide company, the reduction of the scope of the patent, the reach of it can be hurt significantly. And that's one example. There's many other examples of that. Now, as promised, here's a couple diagrams. I'm going to talk first about the traditional model of translations. And I won't belabor this point too much, but as you look at this, you can see the corporate counsel comes up with, they've decided they have something they want to protect. They've come up with some R&D information that they feel is valuable. They want to have a patent. They work with either their outside counsel or they work with their inside legal team, and they write this patent. And most cases, they send it out to an outside counsel law firm, and then that firm will send it out to foreign agents, right? Law firms in the different countries that they're going to file in, these target jurisdictions that they're going to go to, and they send it to them saying, hey, get this translated and get it ready to file. And so each one of these, as you can see, goes down, and I'm going to step away from the mic so everybody, it's not that big of a room, you can still hear me. You guys can see, and I know there's some people behind the wall that can't see me, but they send, the outside counsel sends this patent to their colleagues in different countries, right? And then these countries, like Italy or German, and you can go right on down, here's Korea, and they translate these patents separately and alone. They find either they do it a little in-house or they send it out to a translation company. And the truth is, this is where errors can occur. Not always. There's great translators that some of these law firms use. I don't want to say that it's always going to have an error. But the fact of the matter is, the outside counsel has no idea now. The corporation that's filing it has no idea how it's being translated. It's all by trust, and the foreign law firm is just handing it out to a translator, and they don't know if they're a subject matter expert. In many cases they are, and they've done their homework and they find that, but in many cases they're not. And then you end up with the wrong lime or the wrong, you're covering the snail and not the slug, and you run into these scientific aspects and not just the linguistic part of translation. So this is how it's been done for years. It's been done like in corporations in the US, I'm sure here in India, wherever they're filing abroad, they still use something similar to this. But the system that we use, the model that we use, and the model that got Procter & Gamble to come knock on our door, and that now we have several other large Fortune 50 companies in the United States and abroad are using us, is because of this. We have it all centralized now. We have a single project manager when the patent comes in to be translated, he sends it out to all the different language team leads. This language team leads get it put in, and they're being translated. And simultaneously, we're keeping track of all these translations. And whenever there comes up something like lime versus calcium oxide, and someone sees, hey, there's a potential there being a problem, it gets reported simultaneously to all the other languages that are translating that same patent. So that makes a very, very consistent, high quality product. And that's what everybody wants. And that's when it comes down to the right people, the right process, and the technology that you can use, right? We use technology to track where we are on the patent translations. And we have a way for all the different language team leads to talk to each other and make sure everyone's aware of any little difficulties or points in the translation process that would be helpful for the other teams to know. And obviously, you get a better translation, you get fewer office actions, you get litigation risk goes down, and the TCO, that stands for total cost of ownership of that patent, has dropped significantly. Last slide, and that just talking about the benefits of having a good translation, of using a good system that'll help. I just hit something wrong. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. There we go. You want consistent patents filed around the world. You want them all to be very similar and keep the similar scope of the whole of what's being filed. You want it done on time, of course. And you want, one thing, I mentioned with the technology that we use, we're actually able to give, this process allows us to do more for less. We're able to pass on savings to companies. Most companies that use this centralized process are willing to do that and give back savings, so that now you may be able to file into an additional jurisdiction. You can go into more countries this way. That's really nice. And you want a company that will help you do validations and everything else that comes along with the translations. Last point is, when we talk to these patent attorneys at different large companies, we say, what keeps you up at night? And they say, it's, I have no idea how my patents how they look in different languages. I hope that we have the scope of the patent being covered as designed in the original patent, but they don't know, and they fear the day when the phone's going to ring and it's going to say, hey, somebody's challenging your patent, and it does not look like your patent it doesn't look like your original patent, and that's what you want. You want to make sure you have confidence that you're going to receive a high quality translation, an accurate translation, keeping the right scope of the patent in place, and always done on time. That's the presentation. That's a little bit about translation, and I appreciate you letting me come and talk to you all, and look forward to visiting with you later on during the convention. Thanks, you guys.